So generally that your questions all the time, it will not pop up on the prompter. Wherever I'll be saying that some good queries, so only good queries would be forwarded to me. And since the batch is very big, so suppose that 350 questions are coming from your side, and I have seen in many batches that one single person, not all the people are asking, but one single person is asking 25, 23 questions. So if I give 1 minute to one question, so 25 minutes are gone. Then, so our intention would be towards you, the core development of yours, and moreover that you must learn things from here. You must learn things from here, and be assured that whichever questions you are asking, it will be given a reply. That the reply would be given to you. So RB7 people, I hope that you guys have studied polity also. So you must have got to know about that starred question and unstarred question. So believe that see the classes like this only, that some of your questions like that, the one which can be given oral reply would be given oral reply, and some of your questions which are not so good in the sense of the class, so you would be given a written reply. So be assured about this one. Don't be panicky, and don't be kind of behaving impatiently on this front. Then, so there are these rules, that these are some of the premise rules which I'm mentioning you in the beginning of the class itself, so that we can run the classes smoothly and you can also enjoy the classes. And moreover, I am also one person who believes in classes to be the dialogue. It must not be the monologue. So it must not be the monologue, but there is a limitation. Obviously, there is a limitation when you are learning these all things online, so there is a limitation. So in offline classes, it was fun also, and at the same point of time, that everybody was aware of the situation, that what needs to be completed first. But in offline, there is a scope of the lag in the communication, so that will happen. So please bear with the process, because the time is like that only. That we are going through a pandemic, and then we cannot be that, not we can, that this is the best way through which we all can function well. So with these all notes, I will start the class and scheme of this class. So let's talk about the scheme of the class. So the scheme of this class, that ancient and medieval. So as compared to near about 10 classes would be there in this section, and as compared to the medieval, ancient is little bigger portion. So ancient is little bigger portion, and moreover, ancient, so many dynasties and so many rulers were there in the ancient India. But when it comes to the medieval, so we generally read about the two big empires, that Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. Then, so not, and in this Delhi Sultanate and Mughals, some dynasties are there, but not as compared to the ancient. They are so extensive. So in this 10 classes, near about I would be taking 6 classes, 6 or little bit of more for the ancient section, and then rest of the classes would be related to the medieval. So the 10 classes that has been given to me, if at all any extra would be required, so I'll be asking for that. So you also don't be concerned about the number of the classes, that if at all that as per the number of the classes, that the content is less. So content, I will not keep content less in any instance, and I will ask for extra classes also if at all required. Then another thing, that when we talk about the ancient and medieval, so this is a one section, history. So you know that history is all about the chronology. Then, so history is all about the chronology, that if you don't understand the chronology, so it becomes little difficult to understand that how the things are happening, and which event followed which event. So chronology, I will be in the today's class, and from this moment only, I am going to start with the chronology. Then, so I'm going to start with the chronology, and my request to you at this point of time, that please don't, that you will be writing this chronology, which I am going to write on the board. So you will be writing that chronology, but I will be telling you, meanwhile, I'll be telling you the stories, entire ancient and medieval history in nutshell in the today's class. So don't write that story. There is no requirement of writing any part of the incident except the chronology. Please don't write, because कल से तो वही काम करना है हमें, ठीक है? That from the next class, that suppose that I am telling you about the Sungar dynasty. Here, I told you some background of the Sunga dynasty, so you don't need to write any word about. Only you write that Sunga dynasty 185 BC it came to picture. Then only chronology part you write. Moreover, questions that today that your reference material related questions I will be addressing. Then so reference material related questions, and moreover I will give you my own recommendation that these all are the options before you, and you can go with any of these. Then so I'll be giving you options, and when I'm saying options, which means that suppose that 2-3 books I'll be giving you option, it is up to you. Whichever book you want to choose, you can choose. Then so let's begin with the today's class, and as I said to you, that chronology. So chronology is the very important portion in the history, and not just in the history. As we can see the process in the country, that it is very important in the polity, economy, law, public policy, everywhere chronology is very important. So if somebody says that chronology to samajhiye, so other portion now that those who are nervous and that unformed quality about them, they are also asking that vaccine ki chronology samjhaiye. So let's begin with the history. So before writing chronology, I will write few words over here, few things over here, that there are some terms related to history. So one part of the history we call it prehistory, and then second part of the history we call proto-history, and then third is obviously history. So prehistory, proto-history and history. You need to know that what does these terms means. Then so these terms, so when it comes to the prehistory, so basically prehistory is mostly related with the very early human, the early human beings. Then so early human beings, and moreover that prehistory is that part of the history where apart from the artifacts, apart from the objects used by these people, that early humans, we don't have any other information. We don't have any written information about them. Then so no records. So prehistory means that no written record. No written record. So in prehistory, you have no written record. We try that historians reconstruct prehistory on the basis of the materials or the objects used by the prehistoric men or early humans. Then so the materials, for example, that stone tools used by the early humans, so they are the basis of the reconstruction of their history. Or some diagrams they have created on the walls of the caves, then paintings or diagrams, so they are the basis of the reconstruction of their history. But there is no written record in the prehistory. What is proto-history? So this example of the prehistory would be the Stone Age. Then proto-history. So proto-history is what? That proto-history is basically we have written record. There is a written record. Then written record is there, but that written record has not been deciphered. So not deciphered. Not deciphered, meaning that it has not been fully understood, completely understood by the present day historians, that if there is a written record and you are able to understand that what is written, that we mean by the deciphered. So it has not been deciphered means that the written record is there, written things are there, but we as humans of this time, we are not able to understand that. So the example of this one, that proto-history, is the Indus Valley civilization. So here that written records were there, that some written kind of things are there, but we were not able to understand, and till this point of time we are not able to understand that what is written on those kind of seals and the things which have been found from the Indus Valley civilization. And what is history? History, written record, very well deciphered. Then so written record, very well deciphered, that is history. So these are the terms that we will be using. So let's begin with these are the simple ones. So let's begin with the chronology. So when it comes to the chronology, so ancient first we are going to start with, and the very first word which I wrote was the this particular prehistory. So prehistoric period, so you can write at the top, and this chronology part you must write because it will give you little bit of clarity, not little bit of, a great chunk of clarity regarding the course of the history. So first, you can write at the top that ancient history. So first, I'll start with the prehistoric period. So here I'm writing prehistoric period. So prehistoric period, basically this is when the human beings, that their evolution was happening on the planet Earth, and slowly when they started to move towards the civilizational aspect. So prehistoric period is related to this one, that slowly they learned the art of the hunting, and then also the arts related to their own expression of the leisure activities, and moreover living in the communities, growing the crops. So these all things that we are going to talk about will come under the prehistoric period. So basically this prehistoric period, we divide it into three phases, and these three phases, what we call them, so three phases. One would be the Paleolithic phase. Paleolithic phase. Then I will be writing the dates also, that period also, but first write this one. Then Mesolithic phase. Paleolithic phase, Mesolithic phase, and then the last one, Neolithic phase. Then Paleolithic phase, and this we are reading from the perspective of the India, not from the perspective of the world, that these three periods, they are there all over the world, but otherwise we are reading it from the perspective of the Indian history. So from the perspective of the Indian history, the date changes. Then when you read it from the world perspective, so then date changes. Maybe that Paleolithic in world, other parts of the world will start little early than the Indian part. Then so in case of India, Paleolithic phase, it started somewhere from 5 lakh BC and continued till 10,000 BC. 10,000 BC. Then Mesolithic phase, the starting of this is the 10,000 BC and continued till 6,000 BC. Neolithic phase, it started somewhere by 6,000 BC in case of India and continued till 3,000 BC. So this is about the prehistoric period. Now listen. So this is the stone age of the human beings, that stone age that human being was evolving, and he started using the different kind of stone tools for killing and hunting animals for their own sustenance, because the early humans, their survival was dependent upon the animal hunting and basically eating this particular the animals and these all kind of that things which were grown in the wild. So this stage, that basically that is the Paleolithic, and then later on by the time of the Mesolithic, they learned some new arts, they learned art of the living in the communities, then so they also learned the art of domesticating animals. So these all kind of things will follow, And Neolithic phase is the phase when some new beginnings were made by these early humans. They started using new kind of stone tools, or new kind of, not just the stone tools, but new kind of tools also which were effective. So these all things you will be reading in this section. Then we come to that, then we proceed from the prehistory. What I wrote on the board was the proto-history. So proto-history, so if I mention here, so proto-history, so we have only, in the case of the Indian history, we keep Indus Valley civilization. So we say that Indus Valley civilization is the proto part of the proto-history. So Indus Valley civilization. It is also called as Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization. So Indus Valley civilization and Harappan civilization. So this civilization, roughly, the rough estimate, even till this point of time, there are many debates and discussions regarding the Indus Valley civilization, and which will continue. Even when you are done with your preparation, when you are done with your selection, so even after that also it will continue. Then, so when it comes to the approx timeline of the Indus Valley civilization, so it is somewhere from 2600 BC to 1800 BC. 2600 BC to 1800 BC. So 2600 BC to 1800 BC, it's the approx date between which the Indus Valley also came to being, and then also it was decimated by 1800. Now you can have that, you can ask a question that there is a gap. So that gap 3000 to 2600, that is the preparatory phase of the Indus Valley. Many a times we call this preparatory phase as the pre-Indus Valley. So that is a preparatory phase. Then after the decline of the Indus Valley civilization, that the local cultures of India, they were surviving that other parts of the country, but the place where Indus Valley civilization was there, it rose in 2600, and by 1800 it totally decimated, and moreover the remnants of the civilization were only found in the modern era, but what happened that Indus Valley civilization did not cover the entire length and breadth of this country. When you will be reading about the Indus Valley, so you'll be seeing that Indus Valley was mainly concentrated in the western part of the country, western and northwestern part of the country. So it was not scattered all around the country. So in all around the country, the kind of cultures which were there, we often term them as a Chalcolithic culture. So for our class purpose, we'll be reading the Chalcolithic period, little bit of information about the Chalcolithic over here. But I will tell you some terms related to Chalcolithic, that Chalcolithic cannot be bracketed, which I'm going to write in this only, because Chalcolithic is a different thing. When we'll be in the topic, I'll make you understand that why we have bracketed over here it in 300 years, but otherwise there is a long span of the Chalcolithic period. For the writing purpose, you must be writing that Chalcolithic phase. So this I'm writing here 1800 to 1500 BC. So 1800 to 1500 BC. Then in 1500 BC, one very important event happened in India, approximately. This, since we are talking about the ancient history, so nothing is very sacrosanct information. मतलब 1500 का मतलब 1500, ऐसा नहीं होता है. Then so 1500 means that approximately around 1500. So around 1500 BC, a landmark event happened in the history of this country. Then and this landmark event is going to change shape and course of the ancient history in India. So what was this landmark event? That advent of Aryans into India. So advent of Aryans into India, there were many theories which were propounded related to the Aryan arrival in India. We'll be talking about those all things once we will be there in the topic. So Aryans, basically here you understand that they were the people from the Central Asia, and they started coming to the Indian subcontinent somewhere around 1500 BC, and there were many tribes of these Aryans. Aryan is just a term, but otherwise there were many tribes of the Aryans that they started to arrive in India, and all of them did not came at one point of time only. That 1500 time was the beginning, and then onwards many of them, many tribes from the Central Asia, they came to India. So collectively these people are known as the Aryans, and with the arrival of these Aryans, a new phase is beginning in the history of the country, and that phase we call as the Vedic history. So Vedic history, why we call it the Vedic history? Because Aryans, after coming to this subcontinent, this Indian subcontinent, so their very first work was to compile the Vedas. Then, so to compile the Vedas, so they are the one who started composing Vedas, and because of the composition of the Vedas, this period is referred as the Vedic age. So Vedic age, so with the advent of Europeans, Vedic age started in India. So what is our heading for the chronology purpose? So you write that, here you write advent of Europeans. Advent of Europeans, not Europeans, sorry, advent of Aryans. Advent of Aryans around 1500 BC. Around 1500 BC. Then this, with the arrival of the Aryans, Vedic age is going to begin. Vedic age. And this Vedic age I will further divide into two parts. So Vedic age I'll further divide into two parts. The initial Vedic age is the early Vedic period. Early Vedic period. And the last is the later Vedic period. I hope my handwriting is visible to you. I am writing in a very clear fashion. So Vedic age, so early Vedic, that since we have divided Vedic age into two, so early Vedic age, that roughly it is said that 1500 BC to 1000 BC is the early Vedic period, roughly. Then later Vedic age, 1000 BC to, here I am writing 6th century BC. I am not writing 100, so 6th century BC. So what I said to you, that these Aryans, they came to India. Moreover, they established themselves in India. They started composing Vedas, and these Vedas were composed in the Sanskrit language. So altogether there was a new beginning related to the cultural things in India, a new beginning in the faith of the country. So these all started, and later Vedic, so there are two divisions, we will be seeing that when we'll be in this topic, so we'll be seeing that how the society was like at this point of time, what kind of political organization existed, the economic of the people of the early Vedic period, and also their socio-religious practices. The same kind of topics, exactly same topics would be there in the later Vedic period, and we will also be understanding that few of the things that we are continuing till this date at this point of time, so they are that can be traced from the Vedic period. So 6th century BC, why we are not writing 600 BC, or 6th century means that entire 500 to 600. So entire 500 to 600, it's not only the rear end of the Vedic age, but also at the same point of time, new beginnings in the India in the 6th century BC. Then, so 6th century BC, in fact, is also a very important century as far as the Indian history, that ancient Indian history is concerned. Many things, many events happened during the 6th century BC. So now, The next part which I'm going to write on the chronology sense, and then chronology. So 6th century BC as a kind of heading, and then what happened in the 6th century BC. So please write here that 6th century BC, and overall what happened in the 6th century BC. So first of all, one of the most important thing in the 6th century BC is the rise of the religious movements in India. And what were these religious movements? The 6th century BC is the time when Buddha was born. 6th century BC was the time when Mahavir was born. So rise of the religious movements in India, that rise of the Buddhism and Jainism. So that you can see at this point of time. So you write in the 6th century BC, the very first one, rise of religious movement in the form of Buddhism, Jainism, and since these two are the very important one, but that does not mean that there was no such other theology. In fact, there was very popular theology at this point of time. Name of this theology was the Ajivika. So Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika, etc. Ajivika, etc. So this rise of the religious movement in the form of the Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika, etc. So this happened. This is one very important incident which happened in the 6th century BC. Another very important thing which happened in the 6th century BC is that rise of 16 Mahajanpads. Rise of 16 Mahajanpads. This is apostrophe S. So rise of 16 Mahajanpad. Let me tell you a little bit about the Mahajanpad. Basically, this 16 Mahajanpad, 16 in number, in Indian subcontinent, 16 big territorial states emerged. And so 16 big territorial states emerged. And not all of them were monarchy, but these 16 states which were there, big territorial states, so some of them were monarchy, some of them were republic, some of them were oligarchy. So all the kind of system of governance or administration was there, but these 16 such states emerged in India, and in these 16 states, so one very important, we will be reading about this state only because this is the one such Mahajanpad which is going to control all the other Mahajanpad. So for example, that this Mahajanpad, some names I'm quoting, that you have the example of the Kasi, Kosla, Kasi, Kosla, Vats, then you have Ang, then you have Matasya, then you have Chedi, then Asmak. So this way, so, Asmak, then you have that this particular the one Avanti is the capital, but overall. So these are the Mahajanpads, but the most important Gandhara is one Mahajanpad. So out of these all Mahajanpads which I am quoting, the most important is the Magad. Then, so Magad Mahajanpad. And Magad is the one which slowly it will annex all the other Mahajanpads. So from here onwards, 6th century BC is also the story of the rise of the Magad as the most powerful Mahajanpad. And in this story of the Magad, we will be talking about the different dynasties which ruled from the Magad. Then, so which ruled from the Magad, and there only we'll be reading that how they annexed the other Mahajanpads. So next is the, so I'll be erasing this part. So here as a title in the chronology, I'm writing History of Magad. History of Magad. History of Magad. Listen a little bit about the Magad. So Magad basically that it was the very big territorial state in the state of the Bihar, and if you look at the Magad, so Magad was basically that this area of the starting from the Patna, Rajagriha, so these all areas were coming that it was under the Magad. Then so it was under the Magad. So Magad, when it comes to the first important or the very initial, very powerful ruling dynasty of the Magad, so that dynasty is the Haryanka dynasty. So from here onward, the dynasty scenario will start. So the very first dynasty was the Haryanka dynasty. Haryanka dynasty. And in this dynasty, we'll be talking about some important rulers like the founder Bimbisar and Ajatashatru. Then, so we'll be talking about them, that what kind of initiatives they were taking. So Haryanka dynasty came to power in 554 BC. That 554 BC it came to power, and this Haryanka dynasty it continued till 412. 460, yes, 400. It continued till 412 BC. Then, after the Haryanka dynasty, so this Haryanka dynasty was replaced by basically that there was one minister in the Haryanka dynasty itself, and this minister he killed the last ruler of the Haryanka dynasty, and then he established a new dynasty in the scene of the Magad, and this new dynasty was the Shishunag dynasty. So after Haryanka, the new dynasty which came to power, Shishunag dynasty. Shishunag dynasty, and Shishunag dynasty, so the time period it would be from 412 BC to 344 BC. So 412 to 344 BC. Acha, when I'm writing these things, then so generally people ask, and since maybe after some point of time you guys would be asking, sir, do we need to remember these all dates? Then so do we need to remember these all dates? So basically, when it comes to the ancient and medieval history, and if you look at the previous year paper, so you will come across very less number of the questions which are specific to the date. And particularly in the UPSC examination, the UPSC is not concerned about the dates. Then UPSC is exam though that history is a subject of the fact. Then that there are so many facts, and analysis cannot be done without the fact. Then so if you don't have the facts, how you can do the analysis? But that fact does not mean that they are asking the year. Then that fact means that what happened, that what was the reason. So these kind of facts. So I will say to you that please try to remember the periods. Please try to remember the sequence rather than pressurizing yourself to remember the dates. Then that is not at all required. ठीक है? So dates याद हो जाए तो अच्छी बात है, नहीं याद होता है तो कोई बहुत बड़ी problem नहीं है. ठीक है? But you must remember the sequence, and see that many a times you guys would be asking that I have studied it for 2-3 times, that 2 times, then 1 time, 2 time, and then I'm not able to remember. So don't believe yourself to be the superhuman. Nobody remembers the facts, or nobody remembers the dates that starts remembering the dates with just 1 or 2 learning. Then only the superhumans can do that. Then so we are not superhumans then, and we are not superhumans. It will take a hell lot of effort to remember the facts. Then so which means that after 6th or 7th revision, you will start retaining the chronology. Then so you will start retaining the chronology. So since you have embarked on a journey, that journey is the UPSC examination. So obviously that it's a most that one of the toughest examination of this country, and one of the toughest examination of this country. So it demands a lot from you. It demands not only the hard work, it demands smart work also, and perseverance. Then so you need to be knowing these all kind of things, and you need to be practical while reading the sections, and then unnecessarily criticizing yourself or blaming yourself that after one revision, after one reading, or even third reading, you are not able to retain. The mind doesn't function in this way. Mind functions in a way when you are following the scientific pattern of the revision, when you are following, when you have a clear idea that what all days you will be revising, and then you will be revisiting the things that you have read. So without revisiting the things, you cannot pressurize yourself to remember the facts. So please don't question yourself, believe in the process and believe in yourself also, because the most important in this examination, most important thing in this exam is believing in yourself. Until and unless you start believing in yourself, so this will not happen. So basically, that in the beginning of the batch, I know that very first month and first 15 days, everybody is so enthusiastic, and that's why when people decide that, when you decide to take a coaching for this particular section or for this examination, so you have this belief that you have the ability, but slowly this belief that you had in you, it will start to wane. Then it will start to wane, looking at that what you are able to retain and what you are not able to retain. So please be patient with the process, and over the period, if you are that little bit dedicated to the daily study, so if you're dedicated to the daily study, continuous study, if you have the perseverance, so then what you thought in the beginning when you are going to take the admission, that will be true all over the period, that till the time you are going to get the selection. So please believe in the process and unnecessarily don't blame yourself that you are not able to remember. And history है ना, तो थोड़ी time लगेगी याद होने में, periods याद होने में, it will take little bit of time. Then so let's get back to this one. So I told you that abhi ke time pe only one thing at one time. One thing at one time. So my suggestion that this point of time, remember the sequence. Try to remember the sequence, that how they are coming, and then their new person, new dynasty is replacing that old dynasty. Then after the Shishunag dynasty came a very aggressive dynasty. Then came a very aggressive dynasty, and this dynasty it was not about killing only the rulers, but killing the entire brethren of that particular dynasty. So this dynasty was the Nanda dynasty. So Nanda dynasty, which replaced this Nanda dynasty, which replaced this Seshunaga in the Magad. So this Nanda dynasty came to power in 344 BC and was there till 321 BC. So was there till 321 BC. So very less number of years as compared to all the others you see. So near about 23-24 years, but they were very aggressive. And when this dynasty is going to replace, so that is the time when a pan-India dynasty will emerge and pan-India ruler will emerge, who will be controlling almost all the Mahajanpads of India. So all the Mahajanpads of India, and particularly this ruler from this particular dynasty, he is said to be the first Chakravarti Samrat of India, and you know the name of the person, Ashoka. So the dynasty which replaced the Nanda dynasty was the Maurya dynasty in 321 BC. So let's talk about the Maurya's age. So please mention Maurya dynasty. So it's a big topic, Maurya dynasty. And Mauryas came to power in 321 BC. 321 BC. And their rule continued till 185 BC. So the Maurya dynasty was established by Chandragupta Maurya. We will be talking about the Chandragupta Maurya. Then after the Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar was there. And then came the most important ruler of the Mauryas, Ashoka, who annexed all the other Mahajanpads. In fact, that his rule was beyond sometime, it was beyond the borders of the subcontinent. Then, so, Asoka's age is known for the spread of the Buddhism in India. So that is also one very important thing in the phase of the Maurya, and particularly in the phase of the Ashoka. So here, these all rulers, Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusar and Ashoka, will be discussing over here. Then, so we'll be discussing over here, and moreover, what all religions were promoted by them, what all what kind of religions they followed, so their administration, their rule, these all things, and the wars that they fought, these all things we'll be discussing in little more detail as compared to the other dynasties. Then, so as compared to the other dynasties. So Maurya's rule in fact, it was very important period in the Indian history. And for the very first time that if you say a piece of land as a nation or as a common expression, so the entire country, India, erstwhile it was that ruled by many princely states, many such monarchies, but for the first time that it is coming as a one expression, that entire land of the Indian subcontinent, that Maurya kingdom. So this in fact was a big fact, that how these all things were correlated in the process of the history, how these all areas were correlated in the process of the history. Then, so Maurya's rule was very important from the perspective of the Indian history, moreover the legacy of the Indian history, and you will see that there are many such things as a Mauryan symbol which have been incorporated in our constitution, in our that political symbol, and in our political culture. So that is you to explore that. Once you are done with the Maurya period in the history and also Maurya period in art and culture, so then you try to find out that what all things, that what all symbols of the Mauryas are there in the Indian political scenario. So now Maurya, after the death of the Ashoka, the rulers were very weak. Then as compared to Ashoka, they were very weak, and though their rule continued for some point of time, but by the time of the 185 BC, it became so weak that the one minister of the Maurya, his name was the Pushyamitra Sunga. So he assassinated last Maurya ruler Brihadrath, and he established Sunga dynasty in the Magad. Then so he established Sunga dynasty in the Magad, and with the establishment of the Sunga dynasty in the Magad, we changed the name of the period, because till that Maurya, we also call the age of that the dynasty, that Maurya dynasty rule as the Maurya age, and then after we call the period as the post-Maurya age. Then so here I will be little kind of that different from the post-Maurya age. Now listen little bit, I'll be writing over there on the board that chronology. But post-Maurya age, why we call post-Maurya? Because in Maurya age, entire country was under the one ruler. But in post-Maurya, entire country is not under one ruler. In fact, this Sunga dynasty which is going to come to power, it will be ruling as compared to the original Mughal area, that Maurya area, it will be controlling just 25-20% area of that particular original Maurya's time. Then so they have, their rule is shrinking, then that Magad rule is shrinking. Moreover, many indigenous dynasties will emerge in India, many powerful indigenous dynasties will emerge in India, like Satvahans. Then so we will be seeing that their rule in the post-Maurya. At the same point of time, when Maurya's rule was waning from India, so what happened, that many outsiders, many foreigners, they found it as an opportunity, that since the centralized rule of the Maurya is waning, so now is the time, it is the opportune time to invade India. So they came with the purpose of the invasion, but in the process they settled over here in India. So they settled over here in India. They defeated some of the Indian rulers, but over the period they became Indian itself. They started accepting the Indian religions, they adopted the Indian culture, and they became the Indian rulers itself. But their arrival was from outside India. So it is just like same, that when you say Aryans came from outside, so same way there were many post-Mauryan dynasties which came from outside, and later on they became Indians. So let's talk about the post-Maurya age. So post-Maurya age, I'm dividing the dynasties into two. One would be the indigenous dynasties, means the one which emerged within India only, and the one category would be the outsiders. Then means that the people, the dynasties which came from the outside. So you mentioned post-Maurya age here. So please mention post-Maurya age. Post-Maurya age and or let me do one thing, since you have already written this Maurya dynasty, so I'm just erasing it so that I'll get more space. So post Maurya age, and this you can post Maurya age, you divide it into the two categories. So the first category you write outsiders, and second category you write indigenous. So outsiders and indigenous. Then first let's write about the outsiders, that those all outsiders who came to India. So the very first one would be the Indo-Greeks. After the Indo-Greeks were Shakas. I will write the dates. Let me write the names first. Then Parthians. And the last one and most important one is the Kushana. So Indo-Greeks, when it comes to the Indo-Greeks, their arrival in India was around 165 BC. They arrived somewhere that around 165 BC. Shakas, their arrival around 90 BC. Parthians 25 AD. So you can see that there is a change of date from BC to AD. So from BC to AD, and Kushanas, they started arriving in India from 65 AD. So Kushanas started arriving in India from 65 AD. Then indigenous rulers. So when it comes to the indigenous dynasties, so the very first indigenous dynasty is the one which replaced the Maurya. So चलो यहाँ पे एक symbol के लिए Maurya लिख देता हूँ, that Maurya, and Mauryas were from 321 to 185 BC. So the dynasty which replaced Mauryas in the Magad, so that was the Shunga. So that is the indigenous dynasty. So Shunga. Then after Shunga, in Magad were the Kanvas. And then the last one, Satvahan. So Shunga dynasty came to power in 185 BC. They were replaced by the Kanva in 75 BC. Now, I need to tell you something about the Satvahan. एक बार देख लो इसकी तरफ, that Satvahan. See that these two are the dynasties which are emerging from the Magad. But Satvahan are not the one who emerged from the Magad area. They emerged from the Deccan area. That particularly when you take into the consideration of the part of the country, the central part of the country, particularly the Maharashtra and then the Andhra Pradesh part. So combining that this area, so from this particular area, the Satvahans emerged. Then so Satvahans emerged even before the Kanvas, somewhere closer to the Shunga. So they were contemporary to that from the long time. So their emergence was somewhere around 200. So I'm writing here emergence in 2nd century BC. Emergence in 2nd century BC. But they became a power to reckon, a very important, a very powerful power. So that happened in the 1st century AD. Then so then again I'm writing emergence in 2nd century BC, consolidated their power in 1st century AD. 1st century AD. So this much you write. And in fact that in 1st century AD they would be defeating the Kanvas. Then so they would be defeating the Kanvas and they will also annex the area of the Magad. And with the annexation of the Magad by the Satavahan, that would be the end of the Magad. Then so that would be the end of the Magad. So this is what happened in the post Maurya age. So I hope you are so far with me that you are understanding the chronology. Now after post-Maurya age, now listen. So these dynasties, after that these Satvahans, when we talk about the Satvahans, because they are going to be the very big power. On one hand Satvahan, that's the end, and here in the outsiders Kushanas are the end. So by 200 AD that their power is going to disappear. Kushanas, their power is going to disappear, and Satvahans, their position will also get weakened. So when these two dynasties, their position is getting weakened, and North India, there would be a vacuum which is going to created in the North and Central India. So for next 100 years, in between 200 to 300, a vacuum was created in the North India. And meanwhile, in between this 200 and North, in between 200 AD to 300 AD, one dynasty emerged in the North and Central India, but this dynasty was a kind of a localized power in the 200 and 300 AD, but by 319 AD, this dynasty is going to be the most powerful dynasty in India only after the Ashoka's time. Then, so if Ashoka was the most powerful, so the second powerful dynasty or second strongest dynasty was the Guptas. So after this post-Maurya age, we will start with the Gupta age. So after the end of this one is the Gupta age. And Gupta age, basically, it is from 319 AD to 550 AD. And in the Gupta age, since here we'll be talking about some of the important rulers of the Gupta. So for example, I'll be mentioning about Chandragupta, Samudragupta, so here I'm writing Chandragupta first, then Samudragupta. Then after we will be talking about Chandragupta second, Kumaragupta, and then the last that Gupta for discussion would be the Skandagupta. So these 5 rulers will be mentioning, and moreover, not just the 5 rulers, but many aspects of the Gupta society, that their polity, their economy, their socio-religious practices, these all kind of things. So we'll be mentioning in detail in the Guptas. So Gupta age. Now, one thing you need to understand, that North and Central India is the one which is ruled by the Guptas. But at the same point of time, there is a part of the South Indian history. Then there is a part of the South Indian history that after the Ashoka, there was nobody who can completely control the South India. So in South India itself, that somewhere around second century, that the Satvahans, what I said, that they emerged in 2nd century BC, but their rule was concentrated over there in the Deccan, means that in the middle part of the country, not in the far south. So at this point of time only, that somewhere between 3rd and 2nd century BC, that some dynasties started to emerge in the far south area, and these 3 dynasties are called as the Sangam age dynasties. Then so Sangam age dynasties, so their time period also I'm writing we will be seeing as them as the contemporary, because their origin was there in the somewhere closer to the Maurya's rule, but the continuation of their rule coincided with the Guptas. Then, so here I'm writing Sangam age dynasties, just like the way I have written Gupta age. So Sangam age dynasties. So in the far south, Sangam age dynasties. Sangam age, and there were three dynasties which emerged, but the Sangam age dynasties, so they were somewhere from 3rd century BC till 6th century AD. So this is the time period that we are going to study. So 6th century AD. So this is the time period that we are going to study, and three dynasties, they were there in the far south. So these dynasties, so the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. अब कुछ लोग ये पूछोगे कि इनके आगे द क्यों लगाया है, मेरा मन कर रहा था इसलिए द लगाया है, ठीक है. सो इफ यू वांट टू omit this, you can omit. Then so these are the Sangam age dynasty, and you see that their rule is coinciding with the Guptas, that 6th century AD, and here also 6th century AD. That 550 is what? 6th century AD. Now listen, Gupta's demise in 550. Gupta's demise in 550, and moreover, some of the dynasties over here in the Sangam age, that though the that some of the dynasties, particularly the Cholas, then they will also be replaced by some new dynasty. So this will disappear in the scenario of the south, and entire Gupta is disappearing by 550. So the Cholas will leave a vacuum in the south, and then entire Gupta territory is a kind of a vacuum. So the Gupta's vacuum is filled by a new dynasty. In fact, this was there in the paper this year, that Thaneshwar, then Thaneshwar based dynasty, Thaneshwar in Haryana, and this Haryana based dynasty was the Pushyabhuti dynasty, and the most important ruler of this Pushyabhuti dynasty was the Harshvardhan. So Harshvardhan, so that dynasty is taking the place of the void which has been left by the Guptas, and at the place of the Cholas, which are going to disappear in the South India, so this place would be taken by the two new dynasties which are going to emerge in the South India, Pallavas and Chalukyas. Then, so Pallavas and Chalukyas. So let's look at the post-Gupta age in North and Central India. So post-Gupta age, and in there would be this dynasty, Pushyabhuti dynasty. Pushyabhuti dynasty. Early 7th century AD. Early 7th century AD. Somewhere by 602 it came to power. Then, and the most important ruler of this Pushyabhuti dynasty would be the Harshvardhan. We'll be talking about this person in detail. Then here what I'll mention, post Sangam age, and here the two new dynasties are emerging in the South India at the place of the Cholas. Then, so these two dynasties, Pallavas and Chalukyas. So Chalukyas, they will emerge in the middle of 6th century AD, and Pallavas early 7th century. Early 7th century. Now you can see that these people, Pushyabhuti, that Harshvardhan, is contemporary to the Pallavas and Chalukyas. Then, so contemporary to the Pallavas and Chalukyas, we'll be talking about them. Then there also that their fight with each other, that also will be seen. Then after the post-Gupta age, in that here, you look at this particular part, that Pushyabhuti dynasty, which emerged in the 7th century AD. But by the end of the 7th century AD, or you can say that basically by 700, Pushyabhuti dynasty disappeared. Then, so by 700, Pushyabhuti dynasty disappeared, and the area which was controlled by this very powerful ruler Harshvardhan, now this area is going to be controlled by 3 new dynasties which would be emerging in the areas controlled by the Harshvardhan then. And so these dynasties, they will be appearing by the 750. So here I'm writing a date first, by 750 AD. Then by 750 AD, 3 new dynasties. So these 3 new dynasties, so one is the Pal dynasty. Pal dynasty. Second is the Pratihar Gurjar dynasty. Pratihar Gurjar dynasty. And the third one is the Rashtrakoot dynasty. So they all are going to appear by 750 AD after the demise of the Harshvardhan. So Rashtrakoot dynasty. Rashtrakoot dynasty. Pal were situated in the east part, basically Bihar, Bengal, ye wala area. Pratihar Gurjar, west part. And Rashtrakoot, they are in south plus central. Southwest you can write, southwest plus central part of the India. So southwest plus central part of India. And all of them are going to come to picture by the 750 AD. So going to come to picture by 750 AD. So now the next, and this is the last of the ancient chronology. This is the last of the ancient chronology. In South India, you see that this Pallava dynasty and the Chalukyas, both of them, their power will start to wane by 9th century AD, end of the 9th century AD. So by end of the 9th century AD, Pallavas will completely disappear. Though the Chalukyas, their remnants would be there, but they would not be a very powerful people by the end of the 9th century AD. And Pallavas will completely disappear. So at their place, by the 9th century AD, the power which is going to emerge, 9th century AD, the power which is going to emerge, Imperial Chola. By the end of 9th century AD, ऐसे लिखना, by the end of 9th century AD, and the power which is going to emerge, Imperial Chola. Many a times we also call them mainline Chola. Mainline Chola. So this is the end of the ancient chronology. I have tried to declutter the chronology in a very simplified manner. I have written it on the board, and since you are also writing in your copies, so it would be very helpful to you. And when you look at the way it is written in the books which are there in the market, I'm not saying that whatever they have written, that is wrong, but the way it is written, it is very cluttered, and moreover, many a times we feel that it is complicated, that how it is moving. So please, always whenever you are in a confusion that which particular period you are reading and then how this person came at this place, so please look back to this particular chronology of the ancient. Then so look back at this chronology, and your confusion will be diluted. I'll not say it will completely disappear, but it will be diluted. So this is all about the ancient chronology. I hope you have understood till this point of time. So this is the that related to ancient chronology. Now I will move to the medieval chronology, and it's very simple one, medieval chronology. But medieval में chronology के पहले I would like to tell you something, that there are few things which we are not going to write as a thing in the chronology, but these things would be covered in the classes. For example, that 7th century AD onwards, that not 7th century AD, but in fact that 712. So sir, many students are asking again, BC AD difference. Have replied to most of them. No issues. I will mention that what do you mean by the BC, CE, AD. These all things I'll mention. Just let me complete this particular part. Or before medieval chronology, I will explain this one. So listen this part. So 712 AD was the year when the Islamic invasion for the very first time happened in India, and that Islamic invasion was led by the Muhammad bin Qasim. So after completing this topic of the chronology, sorry, that not completing the topic of the chronology, what I'm saying, that after completing the topic of the ancient, so before beginning of the medieval, I'll be telling you the that Islamic invasion in India. So there I'll be talking about the three invaders, and these three invaders, one was the Muhammad bin Qasim, then I'll be talking about the Mahmud of Ghazni, and then finally we'll be talking about the Muhammad Ghori. So it is the Muhammad Ghori's time after which the Delhi Sultanate was established. So for the chronology purpose, I'll be writing over here only the Delhi Sultanate, but not the Islamic invasions. Then, so लेकिन पढ़ते time पे we will be completely that we will be looking at the background that how the Islamic rule started in India. Then, so since you guys have asked about this BCAD and everything, so let me explain this BCAD and everything. Okay? So give me a minute. So some of you have asked that BC, AD, there are 4 terms which you will come across the books that you are reading. So some places it will be written CE and BCE. Then these all terms. So first of all, BC. BC, how we explain this, or what is the full form of the BC? So it's not the slang that you use in your daily life to your best friend. Then, so this BC means that before Christ. Then, so before Christ and AD. So if I would have been given little bit of more time, या क्लास में तुम लोग प्रेजेंट होते तो क्लास में सवाल पूछने का भी मजा आता है कि कुछ लोग जवाब देते हैं, कुछ लोग सही जवाब देते हैं, कुछ लोग गलत जवाब देते हैं. So that's very interesting, and that's how that little bit of monotony is broken in the class. But I will just move to the what is the meaning of this one. So before Christ, the term itself is very clear, that before the birth of the Christ. Then, so this we call as the before Christ. So all the period before the birth of the Christ, that all the dates before the birth of the Christ is BC. Then after the birth of the Christ, so many times people say after death. This is what I have come across in the classes. Some of them, they do give the right answers also, but most of the time this is one such wrong notion which is there in the mind of the people, that AD ka matlab hota hai after death. No, AD meaning is the Anno Domini, and I hope most of you must be knowing. So it is Anno Domini, and the meaning of the word Anno Domini is the in the year of Lord. In the year of Lord. So who is the Lord they are referring to? So they are referring to Jesus Christ. Then so they are referring to the Jesus Christ. So basically they consider the year in which Jesus Christ was born, that they consider as the Lord, that AD. So the year in which Jesus Christ was born, that is AD. So that is the beginning of the AD, and before his birth, that is BC. Then so before his death, before his birth is the BC. So and after his birth, that the day that he was born, so that year is taken as the Anno Domini, or particularly that year of the Lord. So this is the calculation purpose. But since these are the terms which are familiar with the Christian world, and all over the world, that you are not a Christian, I'm not a Christian, that many of you are not a Christian, many of you are Muslims, many of you are Hindus, many of you are Buddhist. So, and many of us are atheists. Then we don't believe in any such kind of God or religion. So why the hell I'll be using the term BC and AD, which is related to the Jesus Christ? So this was a fair question that all over the world. So the secular world to be said so, the secular world to be said so, so the secular world to be said so, because right now you are saying that the world is not becoming more secular, but it's becoming more extreme. But let's explain this in secular way. So secular world wanted secular statements or secular years. So secular years, so basically BC. So BC they changed with BCE. Then so the equivalent of the BC is BCE. BCE, and AD was CE. Then you will ask, what is the full form of this one? So BCE is considered that it is known as before common era. Before common era. And then CE is the common era. So now 2020 is the common era. Then so 2020 is the common era. So this is the secular term that we are using nowadays. So कभी ऐसा कुछ अगर जो आता है पेपर में or somewhere you are reading, so BC is equal to BCE and then AD is equal to CE. ठीक है? So somebody has asked that how do we count the time of the year and century back then? By Pelvisio. So चलो एक complicated question तुमने पूछा है that you have asked. I'll explain this also. And most of the time I omit this part because once I explain this thing, obviously there would be somebody that there would be few people in the class who are not at all present, and then after some point of time they will ask, explain it again. So I'm asking you guys and requesting that be present in the class at this point of time. I'll not be explaining this concept again. So Pelvisio, I'm going to explain this one, and please all of you be attentive on this one. So BC and AD, how the years are calculated. So years are calculated. So I'll have to take this table and this axis, that X, Y, Z axis, whatever you say in the mathematics. So we have to take this particular axis. So I don't need to take this column, the only two ones. So here, can I say this is 0? We can start this as a 0. This is 0. And here 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, and same way I will be adding. So just give me a minute. I have written it wrong. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Then I will be adding minus into that. Minus into that. And then here I am writing this is 0. So here it is 0. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be plus. So this would be plus. So this minus is BC. This is BC, and then this plus is AD. This minus is BCE. This plus is CE. Then, so it means that suppose if I say that how many years will fall between 2nd century AD and 2nd century BC. So how many years, suppose that I'm writing a question, mathematics bhi karwa lo mere se. So how many years between 2nd century AD or second AD and 2nd BC. You will have to count how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 years. So answer is 4 years. So this way, the counting happens this way. So please remember this chart. This is more simple way. I will not complicate it further because I have many ways to explain it then, but I'm explaining in this way so that it must be clear to you that how the years are counted then. So how the years are counted. So for example, that if I ask one very important question, 2020. 2020 is how far from the first century BC? So 2020 CE is how far from the first century BC? So it will be 2021 because you are counting from here. So 1 year here and then from here onwards you have 2020. So this is 2021 years far from the first century BC. Then, so this kind of mathematical counting is done over there. Then, so 400 years. So 400 years, sir. 2022. Okay. So no, not 400 years. That's simply 2021 because we are living in the AD now. So this is AD is the CE. Then so AD is the CE. So this way you will be calculating. This way you will be counting. See that this is okay. 400 years century. I'm not saying century. This I'm saying that 1 AD. Oh, this is 1 AD. सेंचुरी तो तब होगा ना जब 1 से 100 तक. सेंचुरी इसीलिए मैंने हटा दिया था इसमें से, ठीक है? So first AD to second century, that second AD. Then so say first AD to second BC. Yes, so I'm right. But century मैंने हटा दिया था. तो century अगर जो जोड़ दूं, that's first century AD to second century if I add, so then the answer would be, this answer would be 400 years then. So then the answer would be 400 years then. But if I'm removing AD and this removing century, so then 4 years. So I hope you're understanding this simple table and this is the way we count the years. Okay? So BC means negatives and AD means the positives, and that's why we have a huge positive in 2020, that is coronavirus positive. Then, so let's move to the medieval chronology. So let's move to the medieval chronology. And as I said to you, as compared to the ancient, medieval is simpler in the terms of the chronology. So medieval history. Medieval history. So Delhi Sultanate, as I said to you, Islamic invasion, that topic would be there in the discussion in the class, but chronology purpose we are just writing the two empires of India. So the very first one, Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate, and overall period of the Delhi Sultanate, it is from 1206 to 1526 AD. I'm using the term AD, but if you want, you can use CE. ठीक है? चाहो तो इसको CE लिख लो, equal to CE, common era. Then the names of the dynasties which were there in the medieval period. So the very first dynasty, Slave dynasty. Slave dynasty. After that, Khilji. Then after Khilji, Tughlaq. Then Sayyid. And then would be the Lodi. So slave dynasty, this is the first dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. So slave came to power 1206 and they were in power till 1290. Till 1290. Khiljis came to power 1290. They were in power till 1320. Tughlaqs came to power 1320. In power till 1414. Sayyid came to power in 1414 and in power till 1451. And Lodhis were the last dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. So they came to power in 1451 and was there till 1526. So was there till 1526. Now, after this one, the next dynasty, which will be that after 1526, you know, that slave dynasty basically, first of all, slave dynasty. So slaves were basically that Qutbuddin Aibak was the one who founded the Delhi Sultanate in India, but he was an employee, you can say, for the time being, that he was an employee of the Muhammad Ghori, who was the invader. Then so after the death of the Muhammad Ghori, that this formation of the Delhi Sultanate happened and the slave dynasty ruled for this much years, then followed by the Khiljis. Khiljis were that particularly Ghiyasuddin Khilji was the one who Jalaluddin Khilji, not Ghiyasuddin Khilji, was the one who founded the Khilji dynasty, but very important ruler in the Khilji is the Alauddin Khilji. So we'll be talking about him. And in Tughlaqs, there were many important rulers. So for example, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was the founder, but the important ruler was the Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So we'll be talking about their tenures. Then Sayyid rulers, they were there in India for a short period of time, and they from the politics perspective, from the contribution perspective, their contribution was negligent, but they were there for near about 35, 36 years in India, and finally they were replaced by this Afghanistan-based dynasty, Lodhi, who were very powerful, and they were there for the next 75 years in India. And finally, in 1526, one Central Asian ruler, Zahiruddin Babur, he came to India, and in the Battle of Panipat, first Battle of Panipat, he defeated the last Lodhi ruler, Ibrahim Lodhi, and that's how the Lodhi dynasty was removed from power and Mughal rule started in India. So Mughal itself is a dynasty, and it's in this dynasty we will be naming the rulers, that who were the rulers. And so please write here Mughal Empire. Mughal Empire. So Mughal Empire 1526 to 1707. So are we 7 guys? You know it very well. 1707 we started with the later Mughals. So basically this would be the 1707 would be the end of the medieval history, and from there you start the modern. So in RB9, whenever I'll be coming back in your batch for the modern Indian history, so we'll be starting with the 1707. ठीक है? So medieval में यहाँ पे खत्म हो जाएगा 1707 पे, and modern will start with the 1707. So Mughal period, so the very first ruler, so let me write the name of all the rulers. So first was the Babur, then followed by Humayun, then followed by Akbar. This is Mughal rulers I'm writing, but meanwhile some other things are also there. So let me first write these all people. Then after Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. So Babur 1526 to 30, Humayun 1530 to 40, 1555 to 56, and then here I'm also mentioning in front of the Humayun as a kind of this particular, that one such gap which is there in between 40 to 55. This is the Sur Empire. So at this point of time Sur Empire was there in India. Sur Empire, and this Sur Empire is from 1540 to 55. Then Akbar, so 1556, 1605, Jahangir 1605 to 1627, Shah Jahan 1627 to 1658, and Aurangzeb 1658 to 1707. So this is about the entire Mughal rulers. Now, one thing that you guys may ask, that there are some South Indian dynasties which were in the medieval period. What about them? So now I'll also mention them since I have left this much space here. So these South Indian dynasties at the time of the Tughlaq. Then, so at the time of the Tughlaq, two South Indian dynasties. One is the very important from our examination perspective, Vijayanagar kingdom. Vijayanagar kingdom, and another would be the Bahmani. So Bahmani, from the exam perspective, it is not very important, but Vijayanagar is very important. Then not only from the prelims exam perspective, but also from the mains exam perspective. So Bahmani kingdom and Vijayanagar. So Vijayanagar, they emerged at the time of the Tughlaqs, and this Vijayanagar, it was very much there in the power 1336, though their rule continued till 1640, but it was a disintegrated rule. And Bahmani came to power in 1347, but there was disintegration of the Bahmanis by 1500 only. So by 1520 only. So by 1520, there was a disintegration. 5 houses of the Bahmani were created. So these are the dynasties that will be talking about, and there would be some miscellaneous topics that I'm not writing in the chronology, but we'll be completing while being in the course. So this is about the entire that chronology of the ancient and medieval, and after this I will be telling you about the reference material. So I'll be telling you about that, what you need to refer in this particular section, and moreover today we'll be starting with that some of the topics. For example, that this prehistory part I will be starting today. So let's take break, and RB7 is very much aware that what is the break scenario in my class. So let me tell this thing to the RB9 people, that RB9, that general way of my class is that first 145, that 1 hour 45 minutes, there would be class. Then I'll be giving you a maximum of 15-minute break, but sometimes this break could be little less. For example, that it could be 10 minutes also, 12 minutes also, but maximum of 15-minute break. So, and then after, the next half of the class would be there. Moreover, on the basis of what is going to happen in my class, that how many minutes of the break I have given to you, please don't demand it to any other faculty. It is as per the need of the faculty, and the way he feels, he will give you the break. Please don't ask and don't send this question that Neeraj sir has given this particular type of the break, so aap bhi de do. Nahin, aisa mat karna. Only that I have told you that I'll be giving you break, but on the basis of it, please don't demand it to the other faculties or other people. Okay? So let's take break, and then I'll continue with the rest of the topic. Done? First, I'll talk about the reference book. See that there are 2 lists which I'm giving you. That what all things which are good in the market, that those all books and material which are good in the market, and my specific recommendation that if you will have to ask कि whatever books I'm going to write, आप उसमें से कौन सा पढ़ोगे? So that also I'll tell you. But at the same point of time, I cannot neglect those books which are good. Okay? So I'm giving you the list where whichever book you feel comfortable, you can go to the, आजकल तो वैसे भी market नहीं जा सकते हो तुम लोग, And you can, if you have access to some of your friends' book or family in family itself that they do have these kind of books, so you can see and then you can decide that which would be better for you. So I'm giving you the list of the books which you will be referring, and please please note down that you will not be buying any guidebook from the market. What do I mean by the guidebook? Like the TMH publication, like the Spectrum publication, like the any other publication which is specifically for the PCS examination and UPSC examination. That's what they write on the front of the book. So for this particular section, that is ancient and medieval, you don't need to buy any such guidebook from the market. Here I'm only going to give you the list of the books which are which are published by the governmental bodies, then, and they are the one which are most helpful in your preparation. So first of all, NCRTs. So NCRT. So when it comes to NCRT, so some of my favorite NCRTs. So early India, or better to write it the original name of this NCRT, Ancient India by Romila Thapar. This is a NCRT, very old NCRT, but in fact very relevant NCRT. It is a class 6th one. Then Medieval India. This is the title of the book, Medieval India. Romila Thapar. Again, Romila Thapar. And it is old class 7th. Class 7th NCRT. So these are the old ones, old ones. And in fact, these books are, this book is particularly one day read. This book is particular 1.5 day read. Then, so बहुत ज़्यादा time नहीं लगता है इन किताबों को पढ़ने में. So to start your preparation of the ancient and medieval, you can start with this NCRTs. Then these two NCRTs, and what I said to you कि मेरे से पूछोगे that आप किससे पढ़ना start करोगे. So my answer would be this, that I'll be starting with the ancient India if I would have to do the preparation. So, and medieval India of the Romila Thapar. Then after reading these two books, I'll move on to another NCRT, which is, so ancient India, again ancient India, and ancient India, and this is class 11th NCRT, class 11th NCRT, and written by Arya Sharma, Ramcharan Sharma. Now listen. See, in these all books which I have mentioned, it is not like that they don't have the wrong information. They do have. Then all the books, that nothing is perfect, that as humans we are not perfect, so as the books. Then so nothing is perfect, and everything is that it stands to change. Then so there are many information, since these are the old books, some of the information, not a large chunk of the information, some of the information in these books, they have been changed over the period. Then since new findings, for example, that some archaeological finding is there, and at that point of time when Arya Sharma wrote, so that archaeological finding उस पे ज़्यादा debate नहीं था. So now that particular information has changed right now. So basically you will be referring this NCRTs, but wherever the change is there, wherever the new information there, that new information, the information which is correct from this point of time, so that would be delivered in the classes. Then so if at any point of time you come across that there is a clash of information by something, that suppose that something mentioned in the Arya Sharma or class notes में different लिखा है, so you will have to go by the class notes, because this what I have changed over the period, that what is the UPSC answers, and moreover that in the new NCRTs and new information which has been established right now. So very few things are there, 2-3 things are there in the Arya Sharma which has changed, and same way that this particular NCRTs, I'll say that here very least I have not come across some wrong information, 1 or 2 I can say, but otherwise that they are fairly good NCRTs. Then so you can start with this one. Moreover, that these NCRTs, they are not only going to help you in the ancient and medieval history, but at the same point of time, they are equally important for the art and culture. Then, so equally important for the art and culture, like the architecture and these all sections, they are mentioned over here. So for art and culture, the recommendation would be the same, these NCRTs. So if you are reading it, so बोलते हैं ना कि एक तीर से दो काम. So this is what is happening with this particular NCRTs. Now let me discuss those other books which are there in the market and they are good. Then, so they are good, and if at all some of you have bought these books, some of you have started reading this book, so you can continue with that then. But if you haven't bought, so I will suggest that please go with my suggestion list, which is this one. So many a times you guys would be asking about, so other books I'm writing here, other books or reference material. So many a time people do ask about the Tamil Nadu text, and please don't call it Tamil Nadu NCRT. They are not NCRT. NCRT is a central body books, which is this then, which is there in the central schools then. So central schools, CBSE pattern school. Tamil Nadu text, that is the state board text then. So same way you have UP board text, you have Bihar board text. So every state had their own set of the books. So Tamil Nadu history books are good. I have no reservation regarding their history book. They are good. Language is also very simple. So if you have an inclination towards this particular Tamil Nadu text, or those students who have who are from the Tamil Nadu and they have started the preparation, so they must have read it in their classroom programs. So you can go with this then. So this is a good one. So it is optional. So this other books, I'm saying that this is optional to you. If you feel good and if you feel that you have enough time, so then you can go with. Then apart from the Tamil Nadu, another thing that you guys must be asking, that new NCRTs. What about the new NCRT? So what about the new NCRT? That do we need to refer the new NCRT? So in the new NCRT, when it comes to class 6, 7, so there are two NCRT, R past 1, R past 2. So I will say better to read this one rather than R past 1, R past 2. वो मत पढ़ना. But class 11th, there are two NCRTs in the class 11th in the new NCRT. That is Themes in Indian History 1, Themes in Indian History 1, and second, Themes in Indian History 2. History 2. So these two new NCRTs, what you can do, that if you feel that you have a little bit of more time, so you can selectively read this NCRT, selectively. So here I'm writing very clearly that selectively. Then, so you can read it selectively. For example, that in selectively, I'll be very clear over here, क्योंकि बाद में फिर तुम लोग bombard करते हो questions के साथ. The things which is very clearly mentioned on the board, and my recommendation already, I'm mentioning it very clearly, so there is no point asking it again and again. Then, so इस way में मैं सब कुछ board पे लिख देता हूँ. Take a picture of this one, click the photos, and then please refer to those one. So this is optional, and here I am writing my recommendation. एक बार मैं सब कुछ clearly board पे लिख दूंगा. That his recommendation, that is optional. And when I said to you that Themes in Indian History 1 and Themes in Indian History 2, you need to really read it selectively. So which all topics you will be reading selectively? So let me write the themes you will be reading selectively. So particularly that from the themes part 1, you can read Buddhism, Jainism selectively. Buddhism, Jainism, and from part 2, that Themes in Indian History part 2, you can read Bhakti, Sufi, and Vijayanagar. So this is my list which I will choose. I will choose that what you can read from these two NCRTs, not the entire book you need to go through. If you want, you can read this much. So please be very clear on this head, that what I have said to you, that these are my recommendation, that for the I will go first with this one, and then accordingly I will choose that I will do the value addition from these ones. So selectively from the themes in Indian history 1 and 2, and Tamil Nadu text already I told you that it is optional to you. This one is also optional to you, and if you feel comfortable, so you can go with this one. But this is my recommendation. And again, I'm repeating it, that please don't buy guidebooks. In ancient and medieval, you don't need any guidebooks. Then maybe you will be reading it in the modern. You will be reading in the other subjects like the polity, economy, but here there is no requirement. Then, so here there is no requirement. So this is all about the recommendation. So I'm leaving it over there for 1 minute, and I'll begin with the today's class. So I'll begin with the today's class. So I hope you're done with the same. So not just this, chalo ek do queries that not the ek do, but related to reference book. If you have any query today, so abhi bhej do, aaj hi address kar dete hain, kal se dobara nahi address karenge reference book के बारे में. So please send your queries related to any other reference book that you want to ask, or any other thing related to what you have seen till this point of time. So please send your queries. First I'll be addressing your queries, and then I'll move a little bit since we are left with some time. So I'll be starting with the prehistory then. So so prehistory, and whenever I'm in any topic, I am teaching any topic. So what about 8, 9, 10 NCRT Sajid? So I have not mentioned it over here. So Sajid it is not required. ठीक है, नहीं पढ़ना है उसको. और दूसरा ये है कि syllabus के according नहीं है Sajid. That's not according to the syllabus, because they have mentioned some NCRTs have the contemporary world history also. So it is not required. Then that those which are good already I have mentioned that you can go through. Then so that 8, 9, 10 is not at all required. 8 already, that basically 8 is the modern India. 8 is class 8 NCRT is the modern India. So that modern India part I will be, if you are from RB7, so I think that you must be knowing, but if you are from RB9, so then that I will be recommending class 8 NCRT in the modern India then later on. So it means that some NCRTs are 6th, 7th are the ancient and medieval, but the 8, 9, 10 which I haven't mentioned, they are maybe from the modern India. So since it is not the modern class, so that's why I haven't recommended. So let's begin with the prehistory. So what I was telling you, that whenever I'll be teaching any topic, I'll be telling you the relevance of that topic also, that in past 10 years, 15 years, how many questions they have asked then. So on the basis of that, you can also have a good idea that it is important or not. So let me tell you a little bit about this prehistory. That particularly the Paleolithic part, I have not seen in last 20 years UPSC has asked any question related to the Paleolithic history. But it does not mean that you will not be reading this part. For the understanding of the history, it is required. So take it as an understanding perspective, not from the rote memorization perspective. And Mesolithic part is important. Mesolithic they have asked questions, and Neolithic they have asked questions, but not from the Paleolithic period. Then so Paleolithic period, मेरे तो memory में ही नहीं है कि कब पूछा था. The only thing that Paleolithic part, that at the same point of time there are many people who give the state PCS examination also. So state PCS examination, they are particular about that very factual details from the history. So there is altogether a very different approach to kind of that prepare for the state PCS examination. So where so many factual things are asked. So there they do ask, for example, UP PCS, MP PCS, Bihar PCS, they do ask very factual questions even related to the Paleolithic, but it is not at all required over here in the modern in that in the UPSC preparation. So be assured that this exam, that this UPSC civil services exam is not about fact memorization, but it's about that that consolidating your consolidating your analysis power then, and moreover honing your skills related to analytical ability then. So prehistory, listen, that when we talk about the prehistory, so prehistory is basically about the early phase of the humans then, so early phase of the humans. And when we talk about the early phase of the humans, that what they were doing, what kind of food that they were eating, first of all, we need to know some of the geographical terms I'll be using, but please don't be concerned about these geographical terms. Once you'll be reading the geography, so the very first chapter that you read in the geography is about the geological time periods. So I'll be quoting the geological time periods and you just kind of remember it as a fact. So when it comes to the evolution of the human beings, then evolution of the human beings, so human beings for the first time, they appeared on the planet Earth in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch. So in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch, it's a geological period. So in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch, and after that, that the present phase, the recent evolutionary phase of the human beings, it is called as the Holocene. Then, so these are the terms which I'm using from the geological periods. Don't be concerned. Again, I'm repeating, don't be concerned about that. What is Pleistocene? What is Holocene? Over the period, over the time, when you'll be reading the geography, you'll be very clear that these are the geological periods. So way back, that's I think that 400, 500 millions way back that human beings appeared on the planet Earth. Then, so human beings appeared on the planet Earth. Then after that, after the appearance of the planet, that human beings on the planet Earth, you know that when we talk about the human history, so here some biological terms are also there, that human history. So initially that we are the chordates. When you go into the geological classification of the human beings, so first of all, that human beings comes under the category of the chordates. Chordates का मतलब क्या होता है? That there is a cord, spinal cord. So because of the presence of the spinal cord, we are the chordates. Then after the second level of the classification, that not only the chordates, but mammalians. So mammalians, so human beings are mammalians. So mammalians means that they have the mammary glands. Then not memory, then mammary glands. Mammary glands means that the breasts are there. So breasts are there. So mammary gland is there. That's why we are called as the mammalians. Then came that in the mammalian category, and in the mammalian category, first the chordate, then the mammalian, and after the mammalian, the next category we say that human beings emerged, that they were the primates. Then, so this terms comes primates. So primates कौन है? Monkeys are primates. Then orangutans are primate. Gorillas are primate. Chimpanzees are primates. So they are our ancestors. Then, so primates are our ancestors, that human beings in the beginning, it is as per the evolutionary theory, they were the primates. Then from the primates, that the modern humans, their evolution started. So their evolution started. So then the human beings earlier, they have the hump, and then slowly they started to kind of that erect their spine. Earlier their spine was a little bit bent, and they started to erect their spine, that they changed their posture, they changed their walking pattern, and when they started to walk on their feet, that 2 feet, not on the 4 limbs, then but 2 feet, and then when they started to walk erect, so then this human being came to be known as the Homo erectus. So Homo erectus का मतलब, erect का मतलब खड़ा. So that Homo erectus. So they came to be known as the Homo erectus. And from the Homo erectus, many such different species of the human beings evolved all over the world. Then, so all over the world, for example, that when it comes to the excavations, so there was this Neanderthal man, there was a Peking man, there was a Beijing man, there was a Ramapithecus. So these are some scientific names which are given to the early varieties of the humans. Then, so this is something anthropological which I'm telling you over here. And इसमें कुछ भी लिखने का जरूरत नहीं है. You just need to understand. And please don't be kind of that writing these things. एक बार सुन लेना important है, because you need to trace the things from the very beginning. So what I was telling you, that many such human beings that that they were discovered, so like Ramapithecus, Neanderthal man, Beijing man, Peking man, these all kind of men, they were discovered. Then the next very important evolutionary phase in the history of the humans which came, so that was that the present day variety, we humans then. And what is our scientific name? Homo sapiens. Then, so Homo sapiens, and there were many such scientific genetical varieties of the human beings, like Homo habilis, Homo sapiens, Homo erectus. So first Homo erectus, and from Homo erectus there were many varieties. So Homo habilis and Homo sapiens. Between these two, Homo habilis and Homo erectus, the Homo sapiens are the one which are surviving and which are the one who are dominating the universe. Then, so Homo sapiens, we humans, we are dominating the universe. So what is that factor which led to that Homo habilis becoming extinct, or other varieties of the humane mankind becoming extinct, and only the Homo sapiens surviving? So let me tell you one such very interesting anthropological theory regarding this one, that one of the greatest trait of the Homo sapiens is that these Homo sapiens, they have one trait, and because of these trait, their survival ability, their adaptability, and moreover uh, how they are going to be there in the upcoming ages. So that was increasing day by day. And what was this ability? You will be surprised to know that in all the other Homo sapiens, that Homo variety, and that is particularly that human variety. So in the human variety, these people were not communicative. It was only the Homo sapiens who loved the gossip. Then, so who loved the gossip and who always were interested in talking to each other. And we don't know. अब इसी में कुछ लोग तुम लोग पूछ दोगे कि अपनी मूर्खता जाहिर कर दोगे कि अच्छा कौन से लैंग्वेज में बात करते थे. So please don't be fooled. You are preparing for the UPSC examination. So listen. So these Homo sapiens, they loved gossip and they were talking to each other all the time. Then, because talking to each other and communicating with each other is very important to the human survival. It's very important to the human survival. If you don't talk to each other, so obviously that your mind will stop functioning, because you explore your mind by communicating. You accept that you hone your skills by communicating. And for example, that let's take a situation in the corona itself. So in the corona itself, that when we talk about that some symptoms are there, how come a doctor will come to know that what all kind of symptoms are there with you, where you have a pain, where you have an ailment, then what kind of anxiety is there within you? Without communication, you cannot without communication, it cannot happen. That doctor is not a god that he will close his eyes and then there will be their clairvoyance, and then with this clairvoyance, he will get to know, अच्छा ये हुआ है तो ये दवाई ले लो. So see, this way it will not happen. So you will have to tell him that what is your problem, and then accordingly he can address this. So there were many such things. These Homo sapiens, they were communicating with each other, and that's how some kind of solution was emerging in their own community. On the other hand, all the other Homo varieties, then they were not talking to each other, or they were not communicating as such like the Homo sapiens. So in fact, this is a great theory, that it is the gossip which led the humans to survive. Then, so you know that excess of anything is bad, and that's what is happening. So gossip happens too much. But you know that, as I said to you, that gossip led to the evolution. They explored their mind, they expanded their mind, they expanded their wisdom. So in this series, I would like to quote something, that when it comes to that two varieties of the humans, or two sexes, genders, that not gender, the two sexes of the humans. Gender is a social concept, but let's come to the two sexes of the human, so male and female. When it comes to the comparison between the male and female, so you know who is the most evolved? Male or female? Then, so as per the evolutionary theory and as per the reality also, You know that who is most evolved? It is the women who are the most evolved beings on the planet Earth. It is not you men that you are most evolved. It is not you men who are the symbol of the patriarchy. That since you didn't evolve from your mind, you started dominating from your strength. Then, so so it's not me and it's not you men that who are the most evolved beings on the planet Earth, but this is the females are the one most evolved beings on the planet Earth. And you know, I will just drag something over here as for this evolutionary concept that you know why women are the most evolved beings? Because they love gossip. Then and still they do the gossip. Then so and nowadays many men मेरी दादी के words में she used to say that gossip करना तो लड़कियों का काम होता है कुछ लड़कों ने आजकल लड़कियों के भी कान काट रखे हैं gossip करने में तो so uh, things apart that these all things that apart so let's get back to the history part. So what I was saying to you that this way human beings that their evolution started and human beings evolution started, and in the beginning that when these human beings started to walk in an erect fashion and moreover their initial needs, and basically that most initial, that one of the very most basic need of the any such being on the planet Earth is the food. Then so these human beings, they were hunting the animals, and they were dependent on the animals. Moreover, when you will be talking about the Paleolithic age, so Paleolithic age is the age in which there was so much of glaciation period. Again, I'm using a term which is from the geography. So glaciation period means that all over this planet Earth, there was ice ages. Then, so ice ages means that too much cold was there. So obviously these human beings, they were living inside the cave then, and they were living inside the caves, and then they were not moving very frequently outside. Moreover, when there is a glaciation age, when there is an age of the cold, so obviously the plant kingdom is affected. Then, so plant kingdom is affected, and plant kingdom is affected, so that very less varieties of the plant would be growing. And you know, the best climate for the plants to grow is the tropical and subtropical climate. Then so obviously at this point of time warm climate was not there, so these early humans were dependent on the animals. They were eating the animals. So now one difficulty was there, that how to capture the animal, cut their bodies, then kill them. Then so in this endeavor they started using stone tools. Then that stone tools, and initially they were starting some rough kind of stone tools, then big stone tools, but slowly they learned the art of sharpening the tool. And the sharpening the tool, basically the tool technology is considered as the first technology used by the human beings. Then so this is why that since they used, the early humans, they started using stone as a one very important appendage related to their survival. So we call this age as the Stone Age. Then, so I hope you have understood the things which I wanted to convey to you. And let's write some introduction. So then after, we'll be moving into the details of the topic. So you write introduction. So you write, human beings appeared on the planet Earth. Human beings appeared on the planet Earth in the middle of Pleistocene epoch. In the middle of Pleistocene epoch. In the middle of Pleistocene epoch. Just 1 minute. Yes, this is the right spelling. So Pleistocene epoch. In the middle of Pleistocene epoch, then further to write, the current evolutionary phase, the recent evolutionary phase of human beings, happened in Holocene period. Which led to, in Holocene period, which led to emergence of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. There were many varieties, Cro-Magnon also, I didn't told you, Cro-Magnon also. So we need to read that this Homo sapiens. So from which the Homo sapiens emerged. Then after full stop, the early humans were dependent on animals for their survival. Full stop. Then you write, these early humans started to use stone tools for hunting animals. Used stone tools for hunting animals, full stop. Then further you mention, over the period they sharpened their skill of creating effective stone tools. Full stop. Then after full stop, the prehistory of early humans can only be traced with the stone tools used by them, artifacts used by them, and their rock engravings. I will explain later on what do I mean by this rock engravings and their rock engravings. Full stop. Rock engravings. Then further you mention, on the basis of after full stop, on the basis of stone tools used by early humans, the early history is classified into three stone ages. So आज at least हम लोग Paleolithic पढ़ सकते हैं, that Paleolithic age. Tomorrow onwards, not tomorrow, I don't have class in your batch tomorrow, next week. So next week I'll be starting with the Mesolithic. So let's look at the Paleolithic age. And as I said to you, take it as a general information perspective, and this section, particularly Paleolithic part, UPSC has not asked any question from this section in last 15-20 years. So but it is important to understand that how the evolution is happening. So let's talk about the very first phase, Paleolithic period. So I hope till this point of time you have understood, but if at all any question is there, so Tanya and Bhargavi, please send. And I just remember the person who has sent this particular query, that all the time I just only take the name of the Tanya, Bhargavi, Pranay. So it is not like so they are my team, so I'll be taking their name and they are not the students. Then so ऐसा मत फील करो, और किसी को लगता है कि उसका नाम मुझे लेना है, so you all guys send your names. And since this batch, how many students are there in the class? Can you tell me? कितने बच्चे हैं आज? So let me tell you some details about this. So how many of you are there right now? You are watching the class. So suppose that you are 300 people. Then so you suppose that you are 300 people. So 300 people, if I start taking the name of the 300 people, so पता है कितना टाइम लगेगा? 50 मिनट से 60 मिनट. Then it will take. It is just like that we are going back to those old classes of the class 6 and 7th. So class 6 and 7. So class 6 and 7. So उसमें क्या होता था, that class teacher, that class teacher. So class teacher was coming to the class, and then he starts that who is present in the class. So Amit, yes sir. Then other person, Salini, present sir. So this way we don't need to function. So 150 are there in the RB10. Okay, so 150 are there in the. So देखो RB10 में ही तुम लोग कितने ज्यादा हो, ठीक है? So RB10 में ही तुम लोग काफी अच्छे खासे हो, and RB7 में भी इतने लोग होंगे. So so anyway, if you want that your name must be taken in the class, so अच्छी query भेजो, ठीक है? तो अच्छी क्वेरी भेजोगे तो नाम लूंगा भी, बड़ाई भी करूंगा. Then some students are asking about the vision classroom material of the history. So let me tell you one thing about the classroom material of the vision in history, particularly ancient and medieval history, that you have been given the classroom material, the written material of the modern Indian history. You have not been given the written material of the ancient and medieval. बना ही नहीं है, मैंने बनाया ही नहीं. मॉडर्न का बना के मैंने छोड़ दिया था, एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल का बनाया ही नहीं. सो दैट मटेरियल इज नॉट एट ऑल देयर. सो जो पढ़ रहा है तुम्हें, what you need to read, you only need to read the class notes and the books which I recommended to you. So rely that you only need to read the class notes. There is no printed material for the ancient and medieval, and it will not be there. There is no requirement also. ठीक है? तो एक burden मैंने कम कर दिया. लेकिन कुछ लोग सोच रहे होंगे that some of you must be thinking that काश होता तो महीने का जो ये द हिंदू बेचता हूँ उसके साथ बेच दिया होता, ₹2 ज्यादा मिल जाते. So let's get back to the course. So Paleolithic period. So I'll begin with the Paleolithic period, and here not much details are there, but we just need to see that the evolution of the tools at this point of time. So evolution of the tools at this point of time, and by the end of that Paleolithic, I'll be telling you that which all places in India these kind of tools or the Paleolithic phase was prevalent. So please write a heading, Paleolithic period. Paleolithic phase. So Paleolithic phase. So Paleolithic phase. So basically what we wrote in the chronology that 5 lakh se leke 10,000 BC. So time and again I'll not be writing because already I have written in the beginning. But this Paleolithic phase, this is the very first phase. It is further subdivided into 3 phases. So here only I'll be writing that these 3 phases. So let me write these 3 phases. So Paleolithic is further subdivided into 3 phases. So these 3 phases. So first one, lower Paleolithic phase. और साथ साथ में लिखते चलना तुम लोग भी, lower Paleolithic phase. Then here I am writing middle Paleolithic phase. And then the last one. So let me write here upper Paleolithic phase. So lower Paleolithic phase, middle Paleolithic phase, and upper Paleolithic phase. So here in these subdivisions, I will be writing the dates also. So the lower one was from 5 lakh BC. Oh, sorry. 5 lakh BC to 1 lakh BC. Middle Paleolithic 1 lakh BC to 40,000. So 1000 I am writing as K. K is denoting 1000. So 40,000 BC. And the upper Paleolithic phase, it continued from 40,000 BC, 40K BC to 10,000 BC. Means that till Mesolithic period. So ये तो dates हो गए. Then what we'll be writing in these all headings, the types of the tool that they used. Then, so the types of the tool that they used in this period. So the type of the tool when it comes to the lower Paleolithic phase, listen. So in this one, I'm writing the name of the tools that they were using, but first of all, the shape and weight of the tool. So basically in the lower Paleolithic, which is the first phase, so lower Paleolithic phase, the tools which were used by the early humans, they were rough and big tools. Then so rough, big tools, and they were irregular in shape. So rough, big tools and irregular in shape. Moreover, the characteristic tools, I'm writing their names also. So hand axes, cleavers and choppers were the characteristic tools of this period. So first you write in this lower Paleolithic. So you write that they used big, rough and irregular shaped tools. Big, rough and irregular shaped tools. Irregular shaped tools. Then further you write after full stop, the characteristic tools of this period were hand axes, cleavers, and choppers. Hand axes, cleavers and choppers. Then, so the characteristic tool of this period were hand axes, cleavers and choppers. ठीक है, बस इतना information याद रखो, इससे ज़्यादा कुछ भी ज़रूरत नहीं है. Then now come back to this middle Paleolithic. One more thing I'm writing, the shape. So shape of the tool was the irregular. So irregular shape was there. Now in the middle Paleolithic phase, from here onwards, the tools which were made, these tools were rectangular in shape. So here I'm writing rectangular shaped tools were created. Rectangular shaped tools were created, and then the characteristic tools. So I'm also writing, so you can write that rectangular shaped tools were created. Then characteristic tools were borers, burines, blades. So borers, burines and blades. Then so characteristic tools of this time. So here they were irregular shape. They were roughly closer to, not exactly rectangular, but closer to rectangular. Then, so closer to rectangular shaped tools were there. And what about the upper Paleolithic phase? So you can see that there is a change in the shape of the tool. Then there is an advancement in the shape of the tool. In the beginning irregular, rectangular, and here onwards they started to create triangular tools. Then so triangular, so here I'm writing triangular shaped tools. Triangular shaped tools were created. So triangular shaped tools were created, and moreover the characteristic tools, so characteristic tools were blades and points. So blades here also, but ye blade rectangular and here blades are triangular. So blades and points. Blades and points. So these were the tools which were, and their shapes are important that you need to understand. So irregular to rectangular and rectangular to triangular. So you can see the advancement in the tool technology. Then so advancement in the making of the tool. Then and their names are something that you can remember. Then now the other important aspect related to these lower Paleolithic, upper Paleolithic and middle Paleolithic tools, that which all places in India they have been found. Then so which all places in India they have been found. So you write that there is nothing to explain over here, only the places, the name of the the name of the places where they have been found I'll be writing. So you write that the Paleolithic tools in India, the Paleolithic tools in India have been found from, the Paleolithic tools in India have been found from Bhimbhetka, and Bhimbhetka is in Madhya Pradesh. Many of you must be knowing Bhimbhetka. It's a tourist place also. So Bhimbhetka. Then you write Sohan Valley. Name seems like Indian, but this is, since we are talking about the Indian subcontinent. So here Sohan Valley is in Pakistan. Then Balan Valley. And Balan Valley is your favorite Amazon TV series, Mirzapur. So UP, Mirzapur. Basically this Balan Valley is there in the UP and MP both. So area of the Mirzapur, but it is in UP, MP both. Then you have Narmada Valley, entire course of the Narmada Valley. Then Brahmagiri in Karnataka, Kurnool in Andhra. So these are the some important places where these tools have been found. So where these tools have been found. So these are the important places where, from where we have found these all kind of tools in the Paleolithic phase. Then so this is all about the Paleolithic. इससे ज़्यादा कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ना है इसमें, इस section में. But Mesolithic onwards we'll be exploring more, and then we'll be writing more. We'll be discussing more things in the Mesolithic period. So next class I'll be starting with the Mesolithic, and I'll be talking about the Neolithic period, and then we will move to the Indus Valley civilization. So Indus Valley civilization. So that would be the topic for the next class. And I hope in today's class you have understood all the things, including the reference material, including the chronology, and also the request which I have made to you that be cooperative with the process as far as the that things are concerned, like the one which I said, which seemed very funny to me, related to this daily morning salutations like good morning only to Bhargavi and Pranay. So but whatever it should be, whatever it was, but you have given me a lifetime laugh. Then मैं खुश रहूंगा तुम्हारे इस question से, that at least something in this pandemic period, there is something which I can think, and then even I'm sitting very alone, and then kind of that very silent, and when I will think about your question, I will always laugh. So thank you for giving me smile for the day. And in fact, that the time when I got to know about your query, I don't know, they didn't send me the name, but your query, so I'm smiling from that time. So with these notes, I would like to thank you to you all, and meet you next day, I think in the next week. Thank you.